Welcome to today's show on the Pubs and Pints podcast. Today's story begins not in a pub, but on a dance floor many years ago. My wife and I met our friends Donna and Alex through the vibrant world of Irish dance, a world that brought our daughters together for years of competition and friendship. But what started out as a shared passion for dance led Donna and her family on an extraordinary journey to Ireland. A journey that would uncover long-lost family, her great-grandfather, a famous Irish footballer and three-time Crow Cup champion, and a heartwarming visit to her family cottage. Stay tuned as Donna shares her incredible story of discovering her roots, all thanks to Irish dance. Before we begin today's episode, I'd like to give a huge shout-out to the Mulvihill Lynch School of Irish Dance in Lake Ronkonkoma, New York. A special thank you to Debbie for providing our daughters with an exceptional experience that instilled the values of hard work, discipline, and healthy competition. Welcome, Donna. How you doing?
I'm good.
We have Donna Abraldes. Your maiden name is Foy.
Foy.
Right? So just tell me about your family, your growing up, any of your Irish heritage, any of that.
Well, I grew up with my mom and my dad both being very proud of their Irish heritage. And my mom's family, they're the ones that are from Ballina.
So your grandparents.
So it's actually my great-grandparents. It's my mom's grandparents.
That are from Ballina.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They were all in the Bronx. They grew up in Bailey Avenue in the Bronx.
Yeah.
St. John's Parish was their parish.
Everything is by parish.
Yes. Yeah. Everything was parish. So what happened was my great-grandfather, we didn't really know so much about our heritage, Irish heritage.
Okay.
So my great-grandfather came here when he was 25 years old.
Okay.
And he went through Ellis Island. And when he got here, he didn't, he couldn't get a job. He would do anything. Right. So he worked for, he worked as a bouncer in like in a bar. Yeah. And that's actually where he met his wife, because she was dancing in the bar, and they said that her dancing was not appropriate. So he had to kick her out of the bar, and I guess he got her number. And they ended up hitting it off, and that's how he met her. And he also, one of his other jobs that he had was, there was Jack Johnson. He was a famous boxer. Okay. So my great-grandfather, Bartley, he was his sparring partner. So basically he just, he was a really big guy, and he just kind of took a beating and just worked out with him. And he actually...
Was this in the Bronx?
It was in the Bronx. That's where they all ended up staying. And he was his sparring partner. And they did a book on Jack Johnson, they actually included Bartley in the book because they mentioned him, that he was his, so that was his little, claim to fame. But besides that, then he just worked for the Transit Authority for the rest of his time. And the thing about Bartley was he was the one that, he was the oldest of the siblings, and they all lived in Ballina. And he was the one that left for America, was like the first one to leave. Okay. So the whole family, everybody had this feeling like, oh, what happened to Bartley? Like, what's his family like? So.
How many siblings did he have?
There were like 7 of them. So Bartley being the oldest and Charlie being the youngest. Charlie, what happened was my cousin wanted to know more about the family. So he said, oh, I'm going to just send a letter. He sent a letter, and it arrived to the house that they grew up in. And Charlie had recently passed away. So one of his daughters got the letter and she contacted us. So they started like a Facebook page where we could all be in touch with each other. And I was going there with my daughter for Irish dance. And my mom's like, oh, I posted it on Facebook and they said that they would love to come in and meet us. And I was like, Mom, well, I don't really know them very well. They're not going to want to sit there at an Irish dance competition. Well,
where was the Irish dance competition?
It was in Dublin, like the Dublin area. So most of my relatives went to, a lot of them left and went to London. So I'm sitting there and all of a sudden I see all these men, like 3 men walking in, like older men in suits, all dressed up. And I was like, Mom, is that our family? And she's like, oh my gosh, yes, I think it is. So I walked over and they were crying, like so happy to meet us, like the relatives that they had never met. And they were so proud that, we had children doing Irish dance and that we were proud of our heritage. And we ended up striking up this incredible relationship with all of them.
I love it.
And they took us then to like the pub. It was called let me just make sure I have the name right. Moclair's. And that was in Ballina.
They took you to Moclair's.
They took us to Moclair's and they said, you have to go here because Bartley, he was almost, kind of famous in Ballina because he was on the Stephanites team who they represented Mayo.
Yes.
And they won the Croke Cup in 1907, 1908, and 1909. And it was like such a huge deal that when we went there, this is like, I can't even imagine. He was born in 1885. So he played in the early 1900s. And we went there, gosh, it was like maybe 2010. And their picture is still up in the pub, which I found amazing.
That's incredible.
So,
now, so what do you know about that pub? Did it exist back then? Like, was that like their club pub maybe, or?
I don't know if it existed back then. It seems like it did. It's a very like older looking pub. It was all like very locals that were in the pub. When we went in, they were very nice to us, but like we definitely didn't fit the mold of the people that were going into the pub. It was like just a local crowd of the men who lived in that area. I don't even know if there really were any women in there.
Yeah. So it was a very local pub.
Very local pub. But when we were at that pub, it was that was like the one place that they said that he was kind of famous. So we went there, but we also had the opportunity to go to his home. So they brought us to his home where he grew up with all his siblings. I think it was like 2 bedrooms. It was a really small house. And all my cousins from London, from Ireland, all came and met with us. And we all just hung out like where they grew up and connected with each other, which was...
That's amazing feeling. Like, so let me just back up one minute. When you first walked into Moclair's, you knew that this picture of your great-grandfather was going to be in there, right? It's not like you discovered it just by walking into the pub.
Right. We knew it would be there.
You knew it was there. So when you did go in, right when you first walked in, how did you feel?
I have to say it was very touching. Like we were all very emotional walking in there because we felt like, wow, this is, a place where he probably came to and he visited, and it was just, just a very nice feeling to feel that connection. Cause I hadn't really even been to Ireland. So like it was a lot of emotions.
Yeah. So when the family went to Bartley's house, or his original house, and you first walked in there, how did you feel? Did that give any kind of emotion at all?
there really wasn't like a dry eye. We all started like getting emotional and like, I was wiping a few tears because I was like, oh, I can't believe that I'm here. And, it was, my mom and dad were always very proud of their heritage. And I guess I named my children, Deirdre, Maeve, Bridget, Shannon, with my Spanish last name. But I guess until I walked into the home and I actually felt that connection, I actually felt really proud of who I was. And we walked around outside by the farm and we all picked up a horseshoe and we took them home, and they were old, horseshoes, and we framed them with a picture of us all standing in front of the home. And I have to say, like, ever since that moment, I mean, I have seen my cousins over the years. I mean, they've been here multiple times, and I've been there multiple times. And the first time I ever went there, I really didn't realize, I was almost felt like, Mom, they're going to feel funny meeting up with us, like maybe we should do something on another time and we're not coming here for dance. And once I met them, I was like, oh, wow, I'm so glad that we did this. And we actually went then into their town. So their family pub that they all go to is called the Merry Monk, which is also in Ballina, but they're from Inishcrone, but they go to that pub because it's still close by to them. So when we were going to the pub, they said, oh, we're so proud of the girls, with their dancing and, would they bring their hard shoes into our pub, because, all the people in our neighborhood are going to be there. And I was like, oh, sure. So I talked to the girls. They're like, Mom, I don't know. I'm going to be embarrassed. And I said, well, you know what? Let's just do it. I said, it's special to them and they're very proud of you. And so sure enough, they bring the shoes and they were dancing away. Now, the Merry Monk is a fun, lively place, where they had a band playing and then people are playing the spoons, playing along with them. And, then, my, one of my cousins, Anne, she gets up and she sings and everybody's like going up there to sing. And then my girls were going up and dancing. And, it came to the point where everybody wanted to get up and perform because that's what, and even my 5-year-old Shannon, who wanted to be a part of what was going on, she's like, can I sing something? And I was like, well, what is she going to sing? Because she doesn't really know all the Irish songs. And she gets up there and she starts singing, I wake up in the morning, and she starts doing like a rap, whatever current song was like on the radio and singing that. And everybody was just like cracking up, laughing, having so much fun. They played along with her and she had a grand old time. And after that, I taught her an Irish song so that.
Can you sing that one more time?
So we had a fantastic time, and we were actually planning leaving the next morning from the hotel because, because we had a daughter who had passed away,
yes.
Deirdre, and it was like the 10-year anniversary of her passing.
Okay.
And I said, I really, let's go do something, and we planned like something we were going to do and go sightseeing, and all of the cousins were like, oh, we'd love to see you. We want you to all come back to the house tomorrow. And after meeting them, I felt so comfortable and at home with them that we just threw away all of our plans and just went back and we hung out with all of them. And I have to say, I felt like that was the best way I could have spent the anniversary, because it was like with all of their love and support. Yeah. And when we were leaving, I have to say, like, we were crying ugly tears because I was like, I don't know when I'll see them next. And we got into the car and Shannon, my youngest, was 5, and she goes, I'm so sad. When am I going to see them again? And I said, well, we'll make a plan. She goes, can I have a date? Like, what's the date? And I said, well, I want to tell you the truth. I can't pick a date right now, but maybe we'll try to plan something in 2 years. And, she cried for an hour in the car.
Aw.
And because she said she just loved everybody. So we just really enjoyed it. So needless to say.
That was the very first meeting. That was 2010.
That was the first meeting. But then after we went there and they became so comfortable with us, we ended up with, I want to say about 30 of them all flew in to, all ages, ranging from 80 all the way down to maybe 6 years old. And they all flew in and we all got our houses ready and we hosted everybody. And we had a huge reunion, and all my cousins from all over, the United States, we all met up and had just a great big party together.
That is great.
So,
that is great.
So Irish dance, helped to connect us, because I don't think if we had the excuse to go, you never make the time to do those things sometimes, and I think it forced us to kind of make the time, and then I'm glad it did.
Let's look at Irish dance a little bit. So when you were growing up, did you Irish dance or anything, or did you?
I didn't. No, not.
Did you have much of that feeling of your Irish heritage as a younger person, or more so when you got older?
I think more so when I got older.
Okay.
I mean, I heard the music growing up, and my mom telling the stories and about her, grandfather and growing up there. But no,
you didn't do any Irish dance or anything like that, well, you went to Fordham University, right?
Right.
And at that time, that would have been the mid '80s, right? That's I had friends at Fordham.
The late '80s, yeah.
Late '80s.
Yep.
And I had friends there as well. And there was a lot in the 80s, even into the 90s. There was still a lot of Irish pubs around that area. Do you remember going into any of the Irish pubs in the Fordham section?
We did. So there was one that was a little off the beaten path. That one was called the Jolly Tinker.
I know the Jolly Tinker.
Okay.
Yeah, that was on Webster Avenue.
And that one, and then there was another one that was called Clark's.
Yeah.
That one, the college kids kind of took over. The Jolly Tinker still had some people from the community.
Yeah. My father's brother used to hang out there, so he would have been a local hanging out there. And to be honest, I remember hearing that Fordham University kids would hang out there, and it surprised me because I thought it was more of a local.
It was. It wasn't the most popular one, but you went there once in a blue moon.
Yeah.
It was like, but then after I went to Fordham, I actually graduated from Fordham, and then I ended up teaching in the Bronx.
Okay.
And then we'd go, that's where I met, we went to like Yonkers and, now I have to try
Woodlawn
to think
area.
And we went to the pubs there.
Yeah.
And they'd say, oh, where are you from? And they were expecting you to say like someplace in Ireland,
right,
because there weren't that many American,
Yeah, that's
Americans
a very, a lot
McLean
of Irish
Avenue?
there.
I don't
McLean
know.
Avenue, yeah. And Katona Avenue goes north and south, and McLean goes east and west. They kind of meet each other. Very, very Irish area.
Very Irish area.
And it still is. There's still a lot of Irish pubs there. But back down in that Fordham area, that was, my father grew up in the Bronx, and he tells me of all those Irish pubs that used to be around, and they slowly have been, drifting away.
Right. They changed over.
Yeah. But yeah, the Jolly Tinker, I've been in there a few times. How about, did you ever go up over to French Charlie's?
You know what? I think we did.
Yeah.
Do you remember that name?
Yeah, that was on Webster Avenue also, but it would have been a little bit north of the Tinker.
Right. I think, that was a little bit more of a far walk for us.
Yeah, that would have been a walk.
Yeah.
The Lantern, that was
the Lantern. That's the one that's on Webster Avenue.
Yeah.
That the college kids took over.
Yeah.
They took over the Lantern and Clark's, and the Tinker, they really couldn't take over completely, but you could go in there. It was okay.
Later in life, you got a little bit more of a connection to your Irish heritage and you sought to have your kids learn Irish dance. Was there anything that made you go that way, that direction?
You know what happened? So I probably should say that. So Bartley, who was the great grandfather, came. He had 3 children. So one of those children was my grandfather, Walter, who he passed away when my mom was young. Excuse me, right before she was about to get married. So Bartley walked her down the aisle. But my Uncle Jack, that was Bartley's other son, he had like 8 children. And we were like this big, Irish family, all very connected with each other. My mom really wanted the girls to do Irish dance. And I said, Mom, they're in soccer. They're in, all these other activities, regular dance. I said, it's too much, So she said, oh, can I just take them? So I was like, okay. So she would drive them to Irish dance and she would sit outside, wait for them. And they actually were pretty decent. So it kind of took on a world of its own, which I had no idea what was involved. But
we both are laughing because we know what's involved after that. It's a lot of work.
I don't regret any of it because I feel like it was great for them. They met great people. We met great people.
This is how we met.
Exactly.
Through Irish dance. Yep.
So many great connections. So I feel like it was all worth it. Yeah. And we traveled the world with it.
Yeah.
It opened the world for me because I had never had a passport. So, I've stamped my passport a lot after that, after they started traveling for Irish dance.
And it's what actually brought you to the whole world of Bartley.
It did.
I mean, although your mother knew obviously your mother knew her grandfather because he walked her down the aisle.
He walked her down the aisle because Bartley, so Bartley came here and, then he just worked and he lived in the Bronx and had his children. But his son passed away young. They both fought in World War II, both sons. But my grandfather got the Purple Heart and he ended up being a New York City detective. And he...
was this a Foy?
No, he's Ferguson.
Ferguson. Is that what Bartley is too?
Bartley's Ferguson.
He's Ferguson.
He's Ferguson.
Okay.
So Walter, his son, who's my grandfather, he ended up, he guarded Elvis, he guarded the Beatles. He was with so many famous people. Being a detective, he got himself onto the, I guess, most desirable duties of the day or whatever. But he ended up dying the line of duty. He was in pursuit of a criminal, and he had a heart attack and died. He was like early 40s when he passed away. Yeah.
Oh. This is your grandfather?
That's my grandfather. So I never got to meet him.
Oh.
And Bartley passed away. He was there for when I was born, but I think he passed away in 1971 and I was born in 1970. So I never really got to know him either. Right. So I felt like knowing my Uncle Jack, who is Bartley's other son, I felt like I knew what his personality was like, because he was so outgoing, always telling a story. I mean, he just told us stories upon stories and, we just enjoyed just listening to him. So I had a feeling.
Can you recall any stories?
I know. I wish my mom would know. I can't remember like all the stories because it was like his just regular life stories. I had 8 kids and it was always just stories about, the nonsense they were getting into and he always just had a way of telling the story. I mean, he could tell a story about brushing his teeth and it seemed funny to me,
Yeah.
But then, so he was in my life. And then when he passed away, I felt like we went to Ireland and meeting all these people. It was like, it was this family that I never knew. And it's like, kind of got to know my mom's family a little bit better. The Ferguson side of the family. Because my grandfather I never really met. So that was my way of kind of getting a glimpse into, what he was like.
Yeah.
So
Wow. And then, and your father was a New York City firefighter.
Yes. And, we don't know as much about the Foy family because their family here was so big. So many, like my grandfather had so many brothers and sisters, and my grandmother had so many brothers and sisters. So and so many of them were firefighters.
Yeah.
And so I always felt like I kind of had an idea. I had my grandparents, so I was able to like get that connection with the Foy side of the family.
Yeah.
I felt like I knew them.
Well, you know what? I had never heard the name Foy before, but after meeting you and your dad, and hearing the name Foy, I had only known one other Foy, and it's a guy that's in the FDNY bagpipe band with me, Tommy Foy.
Right.
I actually started teaching him the bagpipes when he was first coming out for the band. And I remember asking him, are you related to Harry Foy? He was in 292 Engine,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And he says, yeah, that's my, what is it? Is it his uncle or is it his
cousin?
It's his cousin, yeah. So it's a small world.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool. I love the story.
And I don't know if I told you, though, when he went back that they did an article because he went back to Ireland when he was like 83, I want to say, around that age. And he just went to go visit and see his house. And when he got home, there was an article in the paper that said that, Bartley Ferguson, who was on the Stephanites team that won, that they were in, and they put him in the paper, and then now he's back in the Bronx. He went back to his home, in the Bronx. But I just thought, wow, for them to think he was that important because of winning that, it was a very big deal. I didn't realize how big Irish football was.
Oh, I'm sure.
I didn't realize, but that they would put that in the paper that he had visited.
Yeah,
I found that kind of amazing.
It's a great story. Great story.
Yeah. Well, my one cousin said, "Oh, well, my wife, when she looked at the picture, goes, oh, it has to be him because he's the most handsome one in the picture."
Of course.
And I was like, well, you had to say that. You're married to a Ferguson.
Yeah, yeah. That is great, Donna. That's great.
Yeah.
Now, back to Irish dance a little bit. Your daughters are very accomplished Irish dancers.
Yeah, so my middle, they all did, Mayo, Bridget, and Shannon, they all, danced, did Irish dancing, and they all went to Worlds in different ways. Maeve doing the Ceilidh. Bridget, she was, I guess, the most decorated Irish dancer because she had won the national championships here, and then she won, she went to All Ireland's there, and she was like third in All Ireland, and
that's an accomplishment.
16th in the world. So she did well. She did well with Irish dancing. Well. And the thing with her is that she might look the most, my husband is Spanish descent, Abraldes. So she looked the most Spanish out of the group. So it just was funny when we'd go up to give her name. They'd say, "What's your surname?" And we're like, "Abraldes." Like, no, what's your surname? Because they were like, what is that? What's that name? Not familiar. It wasn't very common in the Irish dance community. So, and then Shannon came along, and Shannon was the one who I mentioned earlier who, sang the song, at the pub, very outgoing. She was more about the social life of Irish dance, not really worried about warming up and, but she did very well. She placed at Worlds, and she held her own. And but it was they made us see the world. We went to Scotland, Ireland.
Yeah. Well, I think placing in the Worlds and placing in the All Irelands and everything, it's absolutely an unbelievable life experience. But in the end, I really do believe that it's the social interaction that those girls had with each other and the friendships they formed, and even that ability for us to all meet, and because that's how my wife and I met you and Alex and so many other families. And it really, I would never ever change anything that we did in that respect. I think the world of Irish dance was a very, very it was just a very good thing to have done and experienced.
I agree, because when I would say to the girls, when you leave from Irish dancing, years are going to pass and you're not going to remember what was it that I placed, or it's the memories of who you were there with, the live bands that were playing in the lobby and dancing around, and the friendships. That's what you're going to remember.
Absolutely.
The discipline of Irish dance is instilled in them. I think that set them up well for,
absolutely.
For school, for work ethics now, and it gave them a sense of pride of their heritage.
Of their heritage. It was very, very, overall, a great thing to have done.
A great experience.
A great experience. So thank you so much, Donna, for sitting with us today, and we will definitely reconvene after our trip.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All
Cheers.
right, Donna. Thanks. It was fun.
That was fun.
Yeah.